Hello. I'm back. I feel like my regular life, not even school life, just always gets in the way of me making videos in a reasonable time frame. But I have gotten so many questions about school in general, and then also I've got some specific questions about fall semester, which I plan to talk about anyway, but that's what I'm here to do today. So I will go in depth in all the classes and kind of what each was like. But first I'll kind of give a rundown. So summer semester, 10 weeks, 7 classes, 1 clinical day. It is very hectic. It's very overwhelming. It's exhausting. It's a lot. Just leave it at that. Fall semester, 15 weeks, 3 classes, 2 clinical days. It's not quite as heavy every day, but those extra 5 weeks make it feel like an eternity for some reason, and that I feel like is what makes the fall semester particularly challenging. I kind of rather do the 10 weeks quick, don't even have time to breathe, and then it's over, rather than like, oh God. I'm very aware that I'm in this because it's not as fast-paced, but to each their own. There are some people who do prefer kind of having a little bit of a slower pace. I don't know if you can hear the ambulance. Fall semester is when our 5x5 rotations begin. So the reason they're called 5x5 is because we have 5 rotations and each rotation lasts 5 weeks. So like I said, it's 2 clinical days. And at the end of the summer, they split the whole cohort into different groups, maybe of like 30-ish students. I don't know if I talked about this in a previous video because, yeah, I actually can't remember. But they split you all up, and then your like group now moving forward is those 35 people, however many it is per group. And so you really don't see anybody else unless you like happen to run into them, because all the other classes are online. The only in-person classes are your rotation classes that you're doing with that small group. Definitely pros and cons to this. But I wasn't aware of this going in, and it did feel a little bit like, that's rude. We were like bonding with all these people and now we never see them. Anyway, so everybody has a different rotation at a different time because obviously everybody is in these groups. So some people may start with med-surg while another group is doing OB, while another group is doing pediatrics, while another group is doing psych, etc. The class is every Monday, every Friday from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m., 12:50 p.m., but it's basically 1. But different professors kind of break it down the way that they feel fit for their class. So some professors begin at 9, whatever. Tuesdays is all online. So we have our 2 other classes which run the whole way through the semester. Those are the only 2 classes that last the full 15 weeks, ambulatory care and pathophys. And then Wednesday and Thursday are clinical days. So whatever clinical class you're taking is the rotation that you'll be doing in the hospital. Makes sense. So I feel like that's pretty much all I can say kind of succinctly about the schedule. Hospital days. Oh, I guess I should talk about kind of placement. Any placement that you get, whether it's for clinical rotations or for integration, that hasn't happened yet. That will happen next semester. They base location from here, the medical campus. Like, let's just say that what they consider a reasonable commute from the medical campus is 45 minutes, say, south, just to say, and you live an hour north from the medical campus, then you have to factor in an hour plus 45 minutes. That would be like the longest commute that you might have. Obviously, it doesn't work exactly like that, so that's a very, like rudimentary example of what it could look like. But they do base locations and hospitals on the medical campus location. And you have no say, and you can't refute it, and you have to just go wherever they place you. Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of classes. So someone left a comment on one of my previous videos saying, could you talk about the timing of classes, which classes were hard in particular, the style of exams, and what helped you most? So I think these are really good questions, so I'll kind of dive into that. I'll start with ambulatory care. Okay, here we go. Ambulatory care nursing expands upon foundational knowledge of biophysical health problems to provide a comprehensive understanding of nursing care of the person, family, community, and population in ambulatory care settings. Ambulatory care just means anything out of the hospital. So that can be in a skilled nursing facility, which is something like a nursing home. That can be in someone's home, whatever area you're in that's not the hospital. The course integrates biopsychosocial sciences, epidemiology, and nursing sciences to deliver patient-centered, evidence-based care across the health-illness continuum and across the lifespan. Public health emergencies, care of vulnerable populations, and palliative care are featured. Students will develop critical thinking, clinical reasoning, and interprofessional collaboration skills to ensure safe, high-quality, and equitable care. So this class was really fantastic in the sense that it really opened my eyes to the world of nursing. It is such a broad field where you can literally do just about anything you want. Something that I really appreciated about her class, she's an excellent professor, is that she would do these little career corners, and she would talk about different career opportunities that are outside hospitals or like outside the hospital setting. And she would like break down the salary. She would provide links. It was really informative. And then of course we were also learning about some of the things that are here in this description. So like epidemiology, public health, the role of the nurse in ambulatory settings. It was really, really cool. This class had 2 exams and 1 group project. And the first exam was a little bit more tricky because there were some medication type things and it felt a little like pharmacology at times. But as long as you're paying attention in class, taking good notes, reviewing it, giving yourself time, you'll be totally fine. It's not anything super stressful. The group project was a little bit of a pain, and I honestly think that for next year, they'll change how it goes a little bit. I really liked the principle of it. It was like your group goes out into a community, you kind of take note of hospitals, playgrounds, grocery stores, and you describe it. And so I really like that because it speaks to ambulatory care, right? Like public health and social determinants of health. And it was like a really good firsthand look at some of these factors that nurses in the ambulatory setting have to be really aware of. So it was really eye-opening. The execution of it, there were so many people in our groups, and we had to do this 3-page paper, which ended up being like 8 to 9 pages because none of us could get it at the 3-page parameter. It required going to government websites, and the government had to shut down. We had to find other places to access the information, so I think that really made it difficult. Another thing for this class, we had a community service assignment. There's more sirens. So we were required to do 2 hours of community service in anything we wanted, and then we had to write like a paper on what we learned and what our experience was like. And I thought that was really sweet because it also made us go out into our communities and learn about different opportunities and community-based organizations and otherwise that exist in our communities. So I don't know, it just helped me feel a sense of like newfound confidence that I can actually venture out into my community and find things that inspire me, which was really nice. So that was really like the class overall. We met, I want to say from 9 to 12 every Tuesday, or was it 8 to 12? No, definitely 9 to 12 or 9 to 1. I think it was 9 to 12. I can actually just look. 9 to 11:50. Okay. The other class that we had all 15 weeks was Pathophys. This one I think is a class that people tend to struggle in a little bit just based on what our professor told us. It is such a dense class. There's so much material. And she obviously can't possibly test on every single thing, but you kind of have to know everything because everything is fair game. I don't know, it's a lot, but it's a really fascinating class. Like, I really, really loved it. I'll read the course description. This course is the first of 2 sequential courses, so we'll take the second part next semester, that provide an in-depth exploration of human physiology and pathophysiology with an emphasis on the relationship between health and the alterations leading to disease. Students will focus on the etiology, pathogenic mechanisms, clinical features, and therapeutic interventions of commonly occurring diseases manifesting in specific physiologic processes on organ systems. And yeah, that's kind of how the class is broken up. So you'll do like normal cardiovascular or like normal cardio, and then you'll do cardio patho. So anything that can go wrong, heart attacks and all that kind of stuff. Let me tell you when this class meets. So this class is also Tuesdays online from 1 to 3. No, sorry, from 1 to 4. Kind of is like a flipped classroom. She uploads all of the recorded content. You watch it, and then you show up to class ready to engage, ready with questions, etc., etc. And she kind of goes over the material again in class. But to be very honest, just how it works for me, I never went to the live classes. Like, I would try, I would sit there, and I just couldn't engage. I just couldn't focus. And I really wanted to be the student that came prepared with my questions, ready to engage, answer her questions, ask things that I don't understand. And I just never did that. It's just a matter of what works for you. But I will say that she makes herself really available to students. She has so many office hours. She's really accommodating, and she really just wants to make sure that everyone is understanding what's going on, and she wants her students to succeed. So it is really nice to feel supported in that way. If I can give a tip, I will say I realize I have my notes from the last exam on me right now, so I can kind of go through that a little bit if it's helpful. All the way up until, I don't know, like maybe middle of this past semester, of the fall semester, I wasn't sure what the best way to take my notes was. So sometimes I would handwrite my notes. Other times I would take notes straight on the slides on like Notability on my iPad, which, speaking of which, I haven't used that since the summer, and I still have a subscription, I think, so I should probably cancel it. Anyway. And then sometimes I would type out my notes, and I just never knew what worked best. And I finally figured out what works really, really well for me. It might not work for everybody, but if you're kind of lost on how to take your notes, you might want to try this. It has been a game changer. I take all my notes on my laptop, right? So I type everything out, and then the key is you want to print it all out, all your notes out, and then you sit down with a highlighter, with sticky notes, with different colored pens, with pencils, whatever you need, and go through every section. And then try pretending like you're teaching it to someone next to you, or you're teaching it to a class or whatever. I would literally sit with my notes, have the lecture on in the background, so if I like got lost and forgot or like didn't understand, I could listen to it again while looking through my notes in a way that made sense to me, right? Because she has her slides in a way that makes sense to her, but they don't particularly appeal to my learning style. So I need to make my notes colorful, and I need to have my diagrams right next to the words and whatever, so that I can like group things together. And then I have a whiteboard, and I just use the whiteboard and I pretend that I'm teaching, and I like really make it interactive for myself. And that's the only way that I have found helps really like solidify the information in my head. And it makes it fun too, because then you're like engaged, and yeah, it's just really nice. So I can show you some of these notes. So here's an example. Remember I said it's broken down by like normal, renal. So this is like the normal function of the kidneys. And I literally just like have all my little diagrams. Oh, and then this, she does this thing. She breaks up, let me grab my phone again. She breaks up her lectures into many different videos. At the end of each video, she does these practice questions, And so you can like finish watching the lecture and then you go on to take the quiz so that you can see kind of what you learned, what you didn't learn, and kind of the things that she's going to be looking for to test you in on her exams. I didn't find that most questions were like the exam questions, but they definitely help to kind of guide your learning. So when I write out my notes, I make sure to include every single one of those quizzes. And then what I do is I'll just have the quiz and then an answer key. So when I'm going through my notes, I would have already taken the quiz online, but you're at week 4 studying and then you're going back to week 1, you likely won't be remembering those questions and those answers. And so it's good practice to kind of like get your juices flowing again and being like, oh, right, okay, I remember that, or I don't remember that. Let me go back and review that. And so it's really helpful for me to have that straight on my little study guide, I guess I'm going to call this, or on my notes. And then this is renal pathophys. So kind of anything that goes wrong, and same thing. At some point you'll see like a quiz somewhere probably. Yeah, there's a quiz there. So yeah, I highly recommend doing that really for all your classes. So that's a helpful tip that I can give for that. In that class, there are 3 exams and there are no other assignments. So in ambulatory care, I think I forgot to mention, but in ambulatory care, there is the community service thing. I did mention that. That's like a pretty hefty percentage of your grade, and it's like an easy thing to do, and it's fun. So I think she like helps, kind of cushion your grade a little bit while also encouraging you to do something that's not just like strictly academic. And then there's also a training that you have to pay for separately. I think it's like $30 on palliative care and hospice care. And it was really informational. It was really cool. And it kind of serves you later on, I think, in your career. And so it was kind of nice to also have that be part of our grade. And then I think there's 2 trainings actually for the class that are part of our grade. And then the group project, I think, is a group project so that there isn't a 3rd exam, but also because collaborative work is really important, especially in a field like nursing where so much of it is collaborative. But in pathophysiology, there are no other assignments or projects or anything. Those like quiz things are all optional and they don't count toward your grade at all. You can take them as many times as you want and they have no effect on your grade. So each exam is worth 33% of your grade. There are 3 exams. And so if you want to do well in the class, you have to absolutely do well in the exams. The exam style, it's a little bit more straightforward. There aren't any select all that apply questions, but she does like using a lot of, it's like multiple choice, but then one of the choices will be all of these or both A and C or whatever. You do kind of have to know some of the nitty gritty in terms of like being able to choose either all or 2 or 1. And there are just like a couple of case studies per exam. So she'll give you like a patient scenario and then ask the question based on the patient scenario. So it's a little bit more clinical in that way. And then ambulatory care is more NCLEX style, so from what I remember. So I think she has like select all that apply questions for sure. And maybe some case studies as well, if I'm remembering correctly. The other classes, I'm going to wrap this up hopefully soon because it's getting a little bit long. It depends what rotation you're in, so different professors will do things very differently, and in that sense it's a little bit hard sometimes because it's only 5 weeks and it goes by really, really fast. Most of the rotations have 3 exams, so you still have 3 exams as if it were like a full semester, but it's only 3 weeks. So you have like 2 days of class and then an exam, and then you have like 2 days of class and then your midterm, and then you have 2 days of class and then you have your final. So it's really fast. That part is really fast. It's like weird because you have like really fast chunks and then you have like the 2 classes that are just like so long, and it kind of feels like that shouldn't be how it's happening. nothing wrong with the structure. It's just kind of like it feels weird in the brain. Then with the clinical rotation, so you'll have 2 days a week. Every single week there's an assignment for a patient. So you have to choose your patient, and then you do like a plan of care for the patient. You do 3 diagnoses, nursing diagnoses, and then you do all your interventions for each diagnosis. So that kind of takes a lot of time. But you'll have practice going into that from the summer. And then there is what's called a concept map, which is like the other assignments, which are docu-cares, but it's a little bit more involved. And so there is a lot of work still this semester. So it still can get really overwhelming, but it's not quite as like, yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I feel like that really covers it. I hope I was thorough enough. I hope I didn't leave any like loose ends untied or whatever the expression is. But if you have any questions or if something didn't make sense, feel free to comment and let me know if there's anything that I can answer better or explain better. And yeah, I wish you luck. Application decisions are coming out really soon. So if you applied, it's an exciting time for you. Wishing you the best of luck. I'll try to get this up really soon. And yeah, I think that's it. Until next time. Bye.